I saw the film for the second time today. One of the things that really struck me is Dickens as an almost contemporary style celebrity, a man who lives with fame as a constant in his life, and the way that affects his relationships. This idea that you always share him with the public. I mean, was that a very conscious strand that you brought to the story?
I mean, I think it all goes back to the source and the text, and I think what is supreme about Claire's book is the immediacy and the vitality it has, and that there is something incredibly contemporary in the telling. So that for me was very implicit in the book anyway. But I think second to that, I was working with a contemporary celebrity in his kitchen, reworking scenes, and so inevitably for me, that's always intriguing. It's a very intriguing position to be in when you're not a celebrity and you're working with a celebrity, and so that slightly informed that. But I think on a wider level, I think, as Ray, I know Ray won't mind me saying this, you don't read anything, really, do you? You don't have a concept of celebrity in the same way. And I was quite intrigued by that at a time when we're overwhelmed by gossip and publicity and journalistic articles, how you maintain your private life. And that feels very resonant. And that was absolutely at the heart of Claire's book, was how did this very public man work his way through the complexities of a very complicated domestic life. And I think you see that in modern times, and I think on it translates on a human level as well. Even if it's only gossip in the playground, we all have our private lives. So, but it really, for me, like Rafe said, it comes back to the really, really, truly the brilliance of the book.
Claire, if I could just bring you in at this point. You wrote this biography more than 20 years ago, I think, didn't you? I mean, at the time of writing, I assume you would have had no thoughts that this would be adapted for film. And I just wondered, at any stage, did you think, oh my goodness, I'm not sure I like that idea, or were you very enthusiastic about the idea of it being adapted for the big screen?
Was I enthusiastic? I was extremely enthusiastic, yes, indeed. When I met Abby, it was many years ago now, and her enthusiasm was so great, and you were not you are now a celebrity, Abby, yourself, but you were not then. And so to have this brilliant young woman responding so warmly and intelligently to what I'd written was absolutely marvellous. And then, of course, the thing about Rafe is he will remember this, that I said to him very early on, you were born to play Dickens. You were born to play Dickens.
Now, why did you say
his
that?
His beard has come off, but it doesn't matter. Because he's got that ambivalence, because he can do exactly what Dickens could do. He can go from being the jolliest, most convivial, most witty, entertaining person in the room, getting everybody dancing, to being extremely black and difficult. I don't mean he's never been black and difficult with me, but
he has been.
What I mean is he's got it all there. Of course, he's a great actor, though.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to ask Joanna a question. Joanna, I think this is. Some of us who like smaller roles in films that just stand out, you think, what a lovely performance by a supporting actor. This is one of those roles, it seems to me. I thought, Mrs. Dickens was absolutely heartbreaking. Were you surprised to be offered the role? Did you audition for it? I mean, how did it come about?
Yes, I did audition for it, and I was very surprised to be offered it. I read with Rafe. I went into a small room, Leo Davis, brilliant casting director, and we just read it, and it felt very natural between us immediately. But you walk out and you don't know whether you've got the job,
No.
for a long time. And I feel a great sense of responsibility to Catherine Dickens, the woman, as well. There's a sense that when you accept something like that, how much of a portrayal of an original living human being you can possibly ever convey. So I had to just trust this sort of line of incredible beads from Catherine through to Claire's extraordinary sleuthing, to even unravel the story, to Abby's dramatic interpretation, to Rafe's directorial vision. Those are all things, and in the end you just sit there and let that hold you, and hope that you're doing the real Catherine Dickens some service. And I mean, I think she would quite like to know that later, 100 and whatever years on, that her story is being told with some sympathy.
Yes.
Can I just jump in, because
Of course.
it was always one of the best. It was a great scene. I mean, it was a scene the scene that when Catherine Dickens visits Nelly and returns the bracelet. Apparently, this happened. It was a fantastic scene that, on the first reading of the screenplay, really affected me. And then when Joe very generously agreed to come and read, you came into the room, and within seconds we were transported by the way you read the scene. It was absolutely brilliant. Since I've made this film, I've acted in 2 films, and I think the experience of now having got behind the camera on 2 films, Coriolanus and Invisible Woman, that you can't go back to the same sort of innocence. You made decisions about camera, about interpreting a scene as a director. So when you are just an actor again, you are very curious about where someone's putting a camera and how they're moving it around. It's also a relief, having done both, just to be an actor again. But I think I've always been really curious about what decisions directors are making, aside from how they're directing the actors. And now I think I'm even more very, very curious to see what it is that I'm part of. But I don't think that essentially this approaching a role, I think that's the same. I don't think that has changed particularly. I think he's a genius. I think his writing, his portrayal of different kinds of characters, his stories, I think his portrayal of England, I think he's on many, many levels. I mean, his use of prose, his sense of drama, his sense of how to keep a story in the air. He's a brilliant, genius storyteller, a man who knows how to keep his audience waiting, a master of character suspense. I mean, the development of a character, the journey of a character. I know there are people who have their critique of Dickens, but I have been, particularly in Bleak House and Our Mutual Friend, I've been absolutely transported. So, yes, I mean, he can create a sensation in his stories, and he is, I think, profoundly sensitive writer to nuances of character. And I know some people say that he seems not to be write the interior lives of his character, perhaps as a modern novelist might do. I slightly beg to differ. I feel that I sense the interior lives of his characters when I read. But most of all, I think that the power of his description just blows me away.